On the phone right now is Dr. Ben Carson, pediatric neurosurgeon, retired from Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, also on the campaign trail. Dr. Carson, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
All right. I hope those are not emergency sirens and you're not about to perform any surgery going on behind you. I want to take a look at the campaign right now. How long do you plan on staying in this race?
Until I win.
Nice and short. I mean, I know you have a lot of money on hand. I'm sure your poll numbers right now are not what you would like them to be. How far do you think you can go, though, even though you have all that money, if those poll numbers don't improve?
Well, you assess things on a regular basis. Right now, I have an enormous amount of support and a lot of people saying, please don't drop out, so I'm not even thinking about doing that, particularly given the fact that many people have sacrificed in order to donate, because I don't accept donations from billionaires who want to influence things and special interest groups. And it's just we the people. And we the people deserve to have a voice, not to be manipulated by the media.
Dr. Carson, I want to ask you, you had an interview on Fox where you basically alluded to the fact that you would consider being a vice president. Are you still considering that idea, or is that off the table?
Well, I'm not looking for a job. If I were going to do it, that would be the criteria, and it would have to be somebody I was philosophically aligned with, and I'd have to have some very specific things that I was supposed to do. The likelihood of that occurring is very, very. I'm not looking for a job.
Dr. Carson, speaking about Fox News, they've been in the news recently, taking some criticism for the way they've been treating one candidate in particular. Do you feel like you have received a fair shake from Fox News throughout the campaign?
I don't like to sit around and complain. No one ever thinks that they're getting a complete fair shake. So, I'd rather just concentrate on what the real issues are.
Let's talk about South Carolina a little bit. Kind of known for being an area known for its dirty tricks. I know you've had some of your issues with Ted Cruz's campaign. What are you anticipating to happen in South Carolina?
Well, one of the things that I've learned throughout this political process is that people will do virtually anything to accomplish their ambitions. That's not something that I identify with because I would never do that, but it's the environment that we're in. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to change that environment, work very hard to restore trust and integrity.
Out of the other candidates you see out there on the campaign trail still running this race, Dr. Carson, which one of those candidates most reflects the same values that you have?
Probably all of them to some values. When we compare the people who are running on the Republican side, the people who are running on the Democrat side, that's where the huge differences occur. And you talk about people who want to just tax and spend and give no regard whatsoever to those who are coming along in the future, who are not going to protect our nation. That's where the real problem is.
Dr. Carson, as we mentioned, you've been struggling a little bit when it comes to the polls. You are very far behind right now at this point. What are you hoping to do to turn that around?
The more people you get in front of, the faster it turns around, because when people have an opportunity to actually see me and to hear me, then they realize that the portrayals from the media are completely false. And the more times I have an opportunity to make that case, the better.
What do you mean by your portrayal is false?
Well, a lot of people in the media, try to make me out to be some kind of a kook. They've gone back, found a speech that I gave like 20 years ago when I was speculating about how were the Egyptians able to store grain for 7 years, and I said they could have used the pyramid. And they say this is like a major tenet of Carson, grain storage and pyramids. And they try to use ridicule and never talk about the amazing things. Never talk about, separating Siamese twins, creating mechanisms to decompress achondroplasts. 7% of them used to die in infancy. Now none of them die in infancy. They don't talk about that, and then hysterectomies and intrauterine surgery. They don't talk about the Carson Scholars Fund, which won the Simon Award. It's just only given to one philanthropic organization in the whole country out of tens of thousands. Or the Ronald McDonald Charity Award, only 1 out of 10,000. They don't talk about those kinds of accomplishments. They always look for something negative and try to emphasize that. And, it just goes to show you how dishonest the media has become.
Dr. Carson, obviously the media does have a lot of influence over voters. Certain media have certain audiences that can be very influential over those audiences, including Rush Limbaugh. Just recently, he talked about Ted Cruz being the most like Ronald Reagan, which sounds a lot like an endorsement. I wanted to see if you would comment on what Rush Limbaugh had to say about Ted Cruz.
Well, I think, he must have a good reason for saying that. And, he's certainly entitled to that opinion.
Do you think Ronald Reagan would have done the same things that you have accused Ted Cruz of doing in Iowa?
I don't think he would have allowed his campaign to do those things, no.
You mentioned that the media hasn't portrayed you the right way. Want to ask you, because Donald Trump has been critical of you in your past, and yet now he's actually using you in his latest campaign ad, talking about the supposed dirty tricks that happened to you in Iowa. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, well, hopefully he's been paying attention, because all of the things that the media said, about my temper, about West Point, about the psychology class at Yale, have all been proven true. That all of those things did happen. So, of course, they don't have anything to say now, do they?
I want to ask you, why do you think voters should vote for you? Why should you be the next president?
Because of all the people running, I've had more 2 a.m. phone calls and had to make life and death decisions, had to gather information quickly, assess it, have put together teams to accomplish things that have never been done before. And I believe, we're in a unique situation. We've never been in this situation before. We need people who know how to think out of the box and who know how to accomplish things, not people who know how to talk.
Dr. Carson, I want to follow up, too, on New Hampshire. Of course, Donald Trump won the New Hampshire primary. Of course, that state is known for having a lot of independent voters, purple state, if you want to call it that. But as we look to some of these other primary states, do you think Donald Trump is conservative enough to really appeal to deep red states like South Carolina and Georgia and other Southland states?
Well, it really kind of depends on the people themselves.
But speaking about Donald Trump, do you think he has the real conservative bona fides to be this candidate that a lot of folks see him as?
Well, that's what I'm saying. People are so concerned about their future and about their children that they're willing to overlook some of the things that they normally would not overlook.
And what are you talking about specifically? Overlooking something with Donald Trump?
Yeah, they may overlook some of his views on things that are considered conservative or liberal. They may overlook his language. They may overlook a lot of things that normally would be pertinent, because they say it's more important that we find somebody who can protect us. And they equate, loudness and stomping of the feet with being able to protect them.
What do you think about you mentioned his language on the stump. What do you think about that?
Well, it's not what I would use, but, everybody's entitled to communicate the way they want to.
You think it will work for him? I mean, people seem to love it.
It does seem to be working.
It seems to be working. Everything he does seems to work. So, you can't really say it's not working if it is.
People have been critical of you in the past when it comes to your foreign policy experience. What are you doing to change everyone's perception?
I just got to doing a foreign policy forum here in South Carolina for a whole hour, in depth, answering all the questions. And as that information is disseminated, it's a false narrative that I don't know foreign policy. And you notice that almost no one ever asked me about it, and yet they say you don't know anything about it. It's kind of stupid.
All right, well, Dr. Carson, we'll look forward to seeing some of those foreign policy chops during the next debate, which will be here fairly soon, I imagine. It's coming up. They seem to be every week or so. Dr. Carson.
I will have to insinuate myself, because they won't ask me those questions.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to assert yourself.
What do you wish they would ask you, though? There was one question. What do you wish they'd ask you?
I wish they would ask me, what kind of foreign policy would you advocate for the United States?
All right, well, we'll love to ask you that question. We have more time, Dr. Carson. We'll have to have you come back. We got to go right now, though. We are running out of time. But good luck out there on the campaign trail, and we'll look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right, so Dr. Carson's still in it for the long haul, he says. And as we reported yesterday, he has about $47 million cash on hand. That is a lot of money.
Right. More than anybody,
yeah.
which you would think that.
All right.